Been turning plastic waste into fuel for years now with these machines in my backyard. This is my Mark 4.5 machine. I've built 5 of them. Now, you guys know how ambitious I've been. I don't care what it took. If it took me having to do it in the backyard, building it by hand, I did it. But I'm proud to announce that I am a part of the 776 Foundation now, and I will be granted $100,000 over the next 2 years to truly pursue this and have a budget to be able to do this safely and properly and with new measures in place, no longer in the backyard. The 776 Foundation was founded by Alexis, the co-founder of Reddit. So thank you so much to 776.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Inspired Earth. We've got a news update this week. We're going to kind of jump through some varying things, talk about Elon Musk, Titan, ancient people and rituals. Going to talk about ancient autism, and then go into nanorobot that kills cancer cells, followed by some stuff about insects, ants performing surgery and praying mantises, and the mystery of how they evolved in the United States specifically, followed by some rescues. So that's going to be good. As well, just a notice for anybody listening or watching in the future, I'm going to be going from approximately negative 20 decibels to negative 15 decibels, which is about double approximately. So, it's going to be louder. So adjust your volumes for the following episodes for it to be louder. Not massively louder, but approximately double at max volume, so that more people can hear if you're driving or whatever, because I had some people saying at negative 20 was too low for full volume, so you'll have more range in max volume. I didn't want to blow anybody's eardrums out, so I'm always putting it lower rather than higher, but negative 15 is a pretty much like standard for the most part anyways, so I'm just going to go there. And just wanted to let everybody know that pretty much episode 29 forward will be at negative 15 decibels, or maybe slightly higher, but that's pretty much it. Just wanted to let you guys know. I've got an amazing update as well, that Nature Jab came out of surgery. His feet are fine, his skin is fine, and he said that he's going to be going back into the pyrolysis plastic to fuel reactor, and that he got pretty much like a bunch of equipment and like a loan or a grant or something for a bunch of money, and then he got mailed tons of safety equipment. So huge story for Nature Jab, and very happy that he's okay. He made it out of surgery, and I'm going to put the Cash App in the link again. And thank you to everybody that had donated the last time. He said that it was just a flood of messages. So thank you guys so much for all the positivity that you gave Nature Jab. Julian Brown, he's the best.
I've been turning plastic waste into fuel for years now with these machines in my backyard. This is my Mark 4.5 machine. I've built 5 of them. Now, you guys know how ambitious I've been. I don't care what it took. If it took me having to do it in the backyard, building it by hand, I did it. But I'm proud to announce that I am a part of the 776 Foundation now, and I will be granted $100,000 over the next 2 years to truly pursue this and have a budget to be able to do this safely and properly and with new measures in place, no longer in the backyard. The 776 Foundation was founded by Alexis, the co-founder of Reddit. So thank you so much to 776 and to you, Alexis, for granting me this opportunity to do this at a different degree now, with everything so much better. I'm gonna finish Mark 4.5 to get the metrics, the numbers, analysis of my products, but after that, Mark 5 is on the way, what we've been waiting for. The first ever professionally built machine. So thank you guys again, 776, much love.
So to start off, the news, we're going to talk about this new Tesla update from July 2nd. And it says that Tesla, Elon Musk, CEO, would address the company's challenges with child labor in its supply chain, but its high-tech solution doesn't cut it. And this is from Forbes, apparently. Last year, just after Tesla's board and investors voted down a proposal to hire an outside monitor to ensure the electric vehicle makers' cobalt suppliers weren't using child or forced labor at mines in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Elon Musk pledged to do that exact thing and more. I heard a question raised about cobalt mining, and you know what? We will do a third-party audit, the world's wealthiest person told a raucous, adoring crowd of shareholders at Tesla's annual meeting in May 2023. In fact, we'll put a webcam on the mine. If anybody sees any children, please let us know, he said while giggling. So he thinks that this child labor is a laughing matter. But it turns out that Elon Musk even apparently can't afford a webcam or something, because this webcam hasn't materialized on the mine. Rather than having a camera live feed, Kamado Copper Company, that's Tesla's main cobalt source, instead posts a single photo of the sprawling mine complex in southern Congo every month. And is this photo taken by ground? No, it's taken by Airbus satellite orbiting far above the Earth. There are no children to be seen, but that's because the resolution isn't nearly sufficient to reveal anything smaller than processing facilities and scarred landscapes of highly industrialized open-pit mine. So instead of getting a camcorder to show these children mining, or the lack thereof, either way, they're taking we just did the moon photo episode not that long ago, so they're taking Apollo level photos of this mine. I'm pretty sure that the photos that we looked of Apollo and what they're taking of this is probably fairly close to one another. And that's supposed to show us that they're not using child labor. Our direct suppliers undergo third-party audits to ensure no child labor happens at these mines. No material from unauthorized sources enter our supply chain. 4 audits were conducted in 2023 and found no instances of child labor at our direct supplier sites. But the problem is, apparently, that they just move the children to all these... they move... What we do know is that maybe this particular mine does not have child labor or slaves, but apparently all the mines surrounding it do. And then where the material actually comes from is up for debate, because it all gets mixed together. So they have this one particular location, they're saying there's no slaves or child labor, but it seems like all around them they still are. And here we have taking one picture a month. It's not really a comprehensive plan, Wicks told Forbes. Steps Tesla has taken are not even worth mentioning. The effectiveness is just not sufficient at this stage. And scroll down, we have some pictures here. 40,000 people under 18 work or are present at the artisanal small-scale mining operation in Congo. Children are often there because their families do not have access to childcare. Other older children also work in ASM because families need additional income. Cobalt from these smaller scale mines is also sold to traders and mixed in with metal containing industrial mines like Kamado, but Tesla's not monitoring them all, and that's the problem. A further complicating factor, cobalt from the Congo is shipped to China for refining, making it even harder to ensure there's not materials sourced from artisanal mines. By the time it's put inside of a battery in the United States or Europe, it's long been commingled somewhere in China. The discrepancy between Musk's promised action on cobalt and the reality of what the company is doing isn't unusual for a billionaire entrepreneur with a history of bold promises, of which he failed to deliver. Everything from the safety of Tesla's plants, automated driving features, to plans to create an ecological paradise at the company's Austin plant, which I can tell you at the Austin plant, the reason they're even talking about an ecological paradise is because he has polluted the rivers here. He's polluted the soil here. They have massive lights that are blocking out all of the nighttime life. So the bats and insects and birds all do not migrate the way that they're supposed to. So yeah, that's why they're even talking about an ecological paradise at the Austin plant, is because he's created an ecological disaster just north of Austin that's getting worse and worse by the day. So yeah, that's the whole child labor Elon Musk update that was in the news this week. But that's not it. There's some more from June 22nd, 2024. Elon Musk fathered a third child with Neuralink executive Siobhan Zillis, and people can do whatever they want as far as like having relationships and stuff like that. But whenever you start having children, you're bringing somebody else into the world, and apparently this guy's pretty promiscuous. It says that Musk has previously joked he's doing his best to help the underpopulation crisis he views as the biggest danger civilization faces. And he's long peddled the debunked theory that the world population is declining. The UN projects that despite growth rates dropping globally, the world population continue booming to reach 10 billion by the end of the century. So I don't know what he's talking about with the population decline, unless you're just talking about Europe. If Europe is the whole world, which I guess if you're, a racist, then it is. But then it gets a little bit deeper. That revelation comes as Musk has been accused by numerous female subordinates of sexual harassment and inappropriate behavior at his SpaceX company. Musk allegedly had a sexual relationship with an employee who started at the company as an intern and then was hired not long after she finished college before she called it off. Musk allegedly pursued relationship with other female subordinates in his rocket company, including one woman who was asked by the mogul to bear his children on several occasions. The mogul also carried a month-long sexual relationship with a third woman reported to him directly at SpaceX before the two cut ties. Do you notice how all these women are cutting and running? That should probably be an indicator. Earlier this month, 8 former SpaceX engineers, 4 men, 4 women, filed a lawsuit against Musk alleging that they were fired after raising concerns about harassment against women in the workplace. The lawsuit claims Musk's conduct fostered a pervasively sexist culture at SpaceX. Female engineers were regularly subjected to harassment while their concerns were ignored, the suit alleges. These actions had foreseeable and actual result of offending, causing distress, and intruding upon plaintiffs' well-being so as to disrupt their emotional tranquility at the workplace. And Musk had no comment. So, yeah, that's enough about Elon Musk. But MIT has said that they are looking at wave activity on Titan. And if you remember, in 2007, Cassini spacecraft had found large seas and smaller lakes with liquid environment, a mysterious liquid environment. Now MIT geologists have studied Titan's shorelines and shown through simulations that the moon's large seas have been likely shaped by waves. Until now, scientists found indirect and conflicting signs of wave activity based on remote images of Titan's surface. If we could stand at the edge of one of Titan's seas, we might see waves of liquid methane and ethane lapping on the shore and crashing on the coast during storms, and they would be capable of eroding the material that the coast is made of. Rather than look for different direct signs of wave-like features in images of Titan, Perron says the team had to take a different tack and see, just by looking at the shape of the shoreline, if they could tell what's been eroding the coast. Titan's seas are thought to have formed as rising levels of liquid flooded a landscape crisscrossed by river valleys. The researchers zeroed in on these scenarios for what could have happened next. No coastal erosion, erosion driven by waves, and uniform erosion driven by either dissolution, in which liquid passively dissolves on a coast material, or a mechanism in which the coast gradually sloughs under its own weight. The team mapped the shorelines of each of Titan's seas using Cassini's radar images, and then applied their modeling to see if each of the seashores to see which erosion mechanism best explained their shape. They found that all 4 seas fit solidly in the wave-driven erosion model, meaning that waves produced shorelines that were most closely resembled Titan's 4 seas. So they ended up finding that the erosion is occurring by waves. And this is from AOL.com, or apparently from CNN. That's like a cross between the two. Ancient bone could reveal how Neanderthal cared for a child with Down syndrome. A fossilized ear bone unearthed in a cave in Spain has revealed a Neanderthal child who lived with Down syndrome until the age of 6. The find suggests that members of the community cared for and looked after the vulnerable child who lived at least 146,000 years ago. The research is at odds with the image of Neanderthal, ancient human relatives who went extinct around 40,000 years ago, as brutish cavemen. The individual would have needed continuous and intensive care, said paleoanthropologist Mercedes Conde Valverde, the lead author of a study on the bone that appeared Wednesday in the journal Science Advances. The child suffered from a severe loss of hearing and had serious balance issues and episodes of vertigo. Muscle weakness would have also made breastfeeding and movement difficult. The tiny fossil was excavated in 1989 from the Cova Negra archaeological site in Spain's Valencia province. However, archaeologists only recently discovered the specimen when they combed through faunal fragments gathered at the site during a review of the material. We have been able to identify it as a Neanderthal due to the peculiar proportions of its semicircular canals, which are characteristic of Neanderthal. The study did not include precise dating of the bone, which would require extraction of ancient DNA, but Neanderthal occupied the site 146,000 to 273,000 years ago. The research has not determined the sex of the young Neanderthal. A surprising lifespan. People with Down syndrome can lead a long life today, but it's surprising that a child lived beyond 6, which the average age of, living age at that time was 30, 40, 50 max? So, I mean, if it was 30 years old, then this person lived almost a third of, the max of that they could. If 10 years old was a third of the max of your life, you were a third of the way through your life at 10 years old around this time. So he lived a pretty good amount of time. Could have been worse. And it's just shocking that that he lived so long, considering that the average age of death was so young at that time. Average lifespan was so young. That's what I was trying to say. Life in the Stone Age would have been demanding. The study noted that Neanderthal were highly mobile, regularly moving from place to place. The care required for the child to survive for an extended period of time likely involved the mother's reliance on the cooperation and support of other members of the group. Even in the recent past, it was common for people with Down syndrome to die in early childhood. According to the study, life expectancy in 1929 for children with Down syndrome, a condition caused by an extra pair of full chromosome, was 9 years. By the 1940s, the expected lifespan had increased to 12 years. Today, about 1 in 772 babies in the United States are born with Down syndrome, and life expectancy now exceeds 60 years. The oldest known case of Down syndrome in Homo sapien, our species, dates back at least 5,300 years. Using ancient DNA, the authors of a study published in February identified 6 cases in prehistoric population. None of these children lived longer than 16 months. So that was 5,000 years ago, and then we have some that was, what did they say, 140,000 years ago? over 140,000 years ago. These people took such good care of this almost 7-year-old. That's pretty remarkable. Compared to 5,000 years ago, the children did not live longer than 16 months. Down syndrome has always been documented in chimpanzees. A January 2016 study highlighted the case of a chimp with Down syndrome that survived to 23 months thanks to the care received by the mother and assistance from the eldest daughter. However, when the daughter stopped helping take care of the offspring, the mother was unable to provide necessary care, and the offspring died shortly later, the study concluded. Conde Valverde and her colleagues believe the bone belonged to a child with Down syndrome because of the series of abnormalities in the ear structure. These include abnormal shape of the lateral semicircular canal, the shortest ear canal, and an enlarged vestibular aqueduct, a narrow bony canal that goes from the inner ear to deep inside the skull, and a reduction of the overall size of the cochlea bone chamber. Some of these pathologies commonly appear in various syndromes, but the combination present in the Cofa negra fossil has only been described in contemporary people with Down syndrome. The definite proof that the child had Down syndrome would require ancient DNA from the fossil, but that is not yet possible. Past studies of archaeological finds has suggested that Neanderthal cared for vulnerable members of their groups. One Neanderthal man buried in Schneider Cave, what is now Iraq, was deaf and had a paralyzed arm and head trauma that probably rendered him partially blind, yet he lived a long time. A Neanderthal known as Old Man of La Chapelle, uncovered in current-day central France, had degenerative arthritis and may have been fed by other members of the group. I almost read he was fed to the members of the group. He was fed by the other members of the group. A child looked after like any other. Conde Valverde said that the discovery of the Cova Negra fossil supported the existence of true altruism among Neanderthal. For decades, it has been known that Neanderthal cared and looked after their vulnerable companions. However, all known cases of care involved adult individuals, leading some scientists to believe that this behavior was not genuine altruism, but merely an exchange of assistance between equals. What was not known until now was a case of individuals who had received extra maternal care from birth, even though it could not reciprocate. Most parents today don't view childcare as an expectation of reciprocity, and it was unlikely to be the case among Neanderthal. Humans likely evolved an instinctive and emotional response to care for infants to ensure they survived, said Spikins, who wasn't involved in the research. This find brings home how, like us, Neanderthal were in so many ways, particularly in our common human desire to care for the vulnerable. We can imagine that this child was loved and looked after like any other. So we're going to stay on the topic of ancient humans here, and we're going to go down to the deep down under of Australia for Aboriginal rituals passed down over 12,000 years in one cave. They have found evidence, and there's like a diagram and pictures here. This is from physics.org. So 2 slightly burnt, fat-covered sticks discovered inside an Australian cave are evidence of a healing ritual that was passed down unchanged by more than 500 generations of indigenous people over the last 12,000 years, that's a very long time. That's to the Ice Age, So these people were probably doing this even before the Ice Age. They lived through the Ice Age, and then we have this evidence of 12,000 years ago. The wooden sticks found poking out of a tiny fireplace showed that the ritual documented in the 1880s has been shared via oral tradition since the end of the last Ice Age. A study in the journal Nature Human Behavior said Monday. The discovery was made inside Coggs Cave in the foothills of the Victorian Alps in Australia's southeast, in a region long inhabited by the Guanayc-Kurnai people. Guanayc-Kurnai. When the cave was first excavated in 1970s, archaeologists discovered the remains of a long-extinct giant kangaroo that had previously lived there. But the Guanayc-Kurnai people were not involved in those digs, nor were they asked for permission to do research. Further excavations started from 2020, including the members of the local Guanayc-Kurnai Land and Waters Aboriginal Corporation. Carefully digging through the soil, the team found a small stick poking out. Then they found another one. Both well-preserved sticks were made from wood of the casuarina trees. Each one of these found in a separate fireplace around the size of the palm of the hand, far too small to have been used for cooking or heat. The slightly charred ends of the sticks had been cut specially to stick into the fire, and were coated in human or animal fat. One stick was 11,000 years old, and the other was 12,000 years old. Radiocarbon dating found. Memoirs of our ancestors. They've been waiting here all this time for us to learn from them, said the Guanayc-Kurnai elder, Russell Mullet, a co-author of the study. Mullet spent years trying to find out what they could have been used for before discovering the accounts of Alfred Howitt, a 19th century Australian anthropologist who studied Aboriginal culture. Some of Howitt's notes had never been published, and Mullet said he spent a long time convincing a local museum to share them. In the notes, Howitt described in the late 1880s the rituals of the Guanayc-Kurnai medicine men and women called Mulla Mulong. One ritual involved tying something that belonged to a sick person to the end of a throwing stick smeared in human or kangaroo fat. The stick was thrust into the ground before a small fire was lit beneath. The Mulla Mulong would then chant the name of the sick person, and once the stick fell, the charm was complete. The sticks used in the ritual were made of casuarina wood, Howitt noted. Jean-Jacques Delanoy, a French geomorphologist and study co-author, told AFP that there is no other known gesture whose symbolism has been preserved for such a long time. Australia kept the memory of its first peoples alive thanks to a powerful oral tradition that enabled it to be passed on. However, in our societies, memory has changed since we switched to the written word, and we have lost this sense. He lamented that the ancient animal paintings found in French caves would probably never reveal their meaning in a similar way. Indigenous Australians were one of the oldest continuous living cultures, and Mullet said that discovery was a unique opportunity to be able to read the memoirs of our ancestors. It was a reminder that we are a living culture still connected to our ancient past. That's fascinating that this is the longest form of symbolism like in human history, the longest known gesture of symbolism, and it's a healing technique involving nature and fire and consciousness and people praying and stuff. So that's pretty interesting. Will be interesting to see it, to come back to those sorts of elemental types of things as science and society evolves. Perhaps they were onto something a lot more than we have suspected the past couple thousand years.
Signal coming in clear like Bluetooth.